Dan, there's an incredible amount of uncertainty in energy right now. There's so many things up in the air with the EPA greenhouse gas regulation. That could change coal, it could change gas. Obviously, things are changing in renewables and distribution, transmission. What do you think are the big threats, opportunities, and challenges right now in energy?
Well, I think there's a number of things that one can do in terms of helping to further the national objectives on energy, which should be to get to an affordable, low carbon, sustainable energy future that really helps us be competitive globally. So if that's your outcome, the number of things that can be done today that we need to be about, certainly trying to reduce the cost of alternative new technologies that you go into the marketplace, and the second is public policy. So I think the uncertainty that we have, certainly as it relates to a singular focus on the economy, on jobs, on budget deficit reduction, I think lead us to a position where we tend to take our eye off the ball of what objectives we're trying to reach. And as a result, it seems a little bit like we're throwing the baby out with the bathwater when we say, okay, we're not going to deal with that issue right now. And inaction is actually a very negative, I think, consequence outcome if we don't pay attention.
So, and of course, you mentioned public policy, and with the new political reality, new budget reality, what can the Obama administration or Congress or even the federal regulators really do to help energy meet the current challenges?
Well, I think one of the main things, and I mentioned it today in my remarks, was we need to be thinking about what is the problem we're solving, and be about that solution. I think in a time when we really have to pay a lot of attention to how much investment we make, and on what things, I think we really need to crisp up what is our objective in energy. I mean, what are we trying to get to an outcome that in the next 5 years or 20 years lead to a particular set of metrics that we can measure? And if so, then how are we best, I think, suited and equipped to make investments that allow us to get to those? But we need to be about the business of moving toward that outcome very, very shortly. I think kicking the can down the road is simply not going to work in the energy area. It's just going to make matters worse.
Yeah, well, we're also sort of on the challenge front. We're also at the end, hopefully, at the end of a pretty major economic, downturn. How do you think that affected electric utilities and their ability to provide reliable, affordable power to their customers?
Well, I don't think that it's any secret that the recession has caused there to be a retrenching in a lot of businesses, and in the utility business, in the energy business. There's actually been, I think as a result of the downturn, the so-called demand destruction. To a large degree, we now have more capacity than we have demand, primarily because there's a recession in place. Now, that's not going to last forever, and it is something that allows us, I think, to start to maybe think very carefully about what are the next steps. One of the things that I think we've recognized in terms of those of us in the renewable energy business is that almost 55% of our new generating capacity in the last few years has been by renewable energy, primarily wind.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that's driven to a large degree by the fact that there hasn't been a huge demand for new energy. And the demand that we have had has been a result of state mandates to a large degree, and some public policy that's encouraged the introduction of renewable energy onto our energy system in this country. Those are positive things, and I think it's started us on a trajectory that allows some momentum to be built up. The danger that we run across now is curtailing that momentum, because we have a singular focus on budget reductions, and we're just simply going to do away with the processes and programs that were in place prior to.
Well, yeah. Speaking of budget reductions and spending, I mean, the economic stimulus plan actually pumped billions of dollars into the energy business on energy efficiency, smart grids, research and development. Do you think there's been a real impact on the energy business from that? And if so, where do you think you see it?
Yeah, so the short answer to that, I believe, is there has been an impact. Only time will tell in terms of how to quantify that. So what kind of impact and to what degree. But there's no question it's been a serious infusion of new resources into an industry sector that I think needed those in order to kind of move and get off the ground. One of the things that I like to focus on is the fact that this new energy economy, to say it in the way we used to say it, really relates to a large degree on having the private sector make investments. And I think the government's role is to enable the private sector to make those investments, reduce their risk, move down learning curves, reduce the costs. Traditionally, we used to think that was the government's role. Yeah. It really isn't. It's the private sector's role. On the other hand, government can enable that to do it more quickly at a pace much more accelerated than anything that would happen by its natural mechanisms. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that our energy industry today, our industry sector, is highly regulated. Yeah. And as a result, it's to a large degree not incentivized to make huge changes in terms of innovation and in terms of new business models, and we need to kind of get our arms around that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, thank you very much, Dan. Appreciate it. That's all we've got for now.
Okay. Thank you, Randy.
Thank you.